Hi everyone, I hope you're keeping well. My name is Harry and I'm the current Vice President of Education at Worcester Students' Union. Today we're joined by Sophie, who is the Chief Exec. Sophie, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Sophie Williams. I'm the Chief Exec of the Students' Union. So my role is to support the likes of Harry and his friends, point at them, through their term of office, and also manage the core staff team and the operations of the SU. And make sure that students have a wonderful time, despite people like Harry.
How rude.
How rude.
So we know it can be daunting entering the world of work, but we're here to support you to make sure that you get a head start and can go to employers and show the wonderful students that you are from Worcester. So within this video, we're going to be talking about things like interviews, CV skills, application forms, and describing what sort of employers are looking for, and how Sophie can help you to get a job in the future.
Okay, so I've worked in the world of student unions for quite a long time, but I've done other stuff as well. So I graduated from a fairly okay university. I went to Birmingham, but I was a very unremarkable graduate because I was a bit lazy as a student. Yeah, I was a little bit lazy, didn't really do much. I played football, that's about it. So I kind of didn't really know what I wanted to do when I left uni, so I just kept myself employed and had sort of a few odd jobs with the council. Then I was a police officer for 4 years. Wasn't very good at that because I was a bit gullible and believed what everybody said. And when I was a police officer, part of my patch was Selly Oak, where all the students lived in Birmingham, and I used to want to go there. So I thought, you know what, to the jobs, I always used to volunteer because it was students. I was like, I'll go to that one. So then I thought, you know what, I really just want to work with students. So I ended up going in and working at the Guild of Students at Birmingham Uni, which is their student union. I worked there for a long time. Then I've also had jobs in the council as a neighbourhood manager, as part of the NHS as a mental health lead. Then I went to Wolverhampton Students' Union and worked there. And then finally I came here. So whilst I've been in student unions a lot, I have also sort of done different things as well.
Amazing, thank you.
Okay, I've got some notes here because I never remember everything because I'm an old woman. Is that okay? Right, so we've advertised lots and lots of jobs in the student union in the time I've been here, and I've recruited quite a few people over the years. The first thing I'm going to say is that I have never ever myself got a job through my CV. I don't think I've ever really had to give anyone my CV. I know that's quite common in the private sector and places like that, and science and that sort of arena, but I've always worked in the sort of public charity sector, and I've always had to fill in a bespoke application form that they have sent me. So it's always good to have your CV up to date, but I was going to talk today a bit more about having a good application form.
No, that's perfect.
So when you're filling in an application form, what they will probably want you to do is refer to what they've listed as requirements on the person specification. So you'll have the job description, which is what the job entails, and then the person specification is what they're looking for in that particular employee. So things that you're good at, so experience of administration, experience of running events, that sort of thing. So what you want to do when it gives you that page where it says, please outline your experience, you want to cover as much of those points in the person specification. It will probably say, referring to the job description or referring to the person specification. More often than not, it's the person specification, okay? So what you want to do is refer to each thing that they list. The reason for this is that one of the ways to help organisations recruit is they will generally have like a matrix, like a scoring matrix. Mm-hmm. So you will score the application forms that you get in against this matrix. So if candidates don't cover the particular points, you can't give them any points.
Yeah.
Okay, so if there were 20 points on the person specification, ranging from, say, some of the jobs that we employ, experience of working with students to experience of using Outlook and Excel, you would have to put, what we're looking for is you evidencing that you've got experience in all those different areas. Never just say, I can do that and I am good at that. You need to give an example, and then what a really good answer is the outcome. So if you had a point on the person specification that said you are able to lead a team or supervise others, you could say as a graduate, I was working on my dissertation with my dissertation group. I offered to be the chair of the group, and we did X, Y, and Z, and the outcome of this is that we did an A presentation.
Yeah.
Okay, so even though you've just maybe done your degree and you've maybe had a part-time job, there are certainly things that you can still utilise within that. And you may also, for example, if you've been a committee member or a club or society, then you can bring in those sorts of examples.
And then the outcome would sort of be the success of the club? Or,
yes, and I managed to run the club for the year. You know, the budget was good, we had a good year, and I was able to, hand over successfully to the following chair or secretary or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Another thing for interview, for the application form, is don't be afraid to show your personality. It is really, really important for an employer to employ someone who's going to be a good fit for the team. And that's a genuine reason to employ someone. So they might not be as qualified as all the other candidates, but there's something about that person that you think will either bring something new or their personality. So if you think that you might not cover each area of the job description or meet every area of the person specification, don't worry. If you can show a little bit of personality and show, more importantly, that you want that job.
Yeah, like a desire to learn it if you haven't got it as well.
Yes, yeah. And that you're actually applying for that job. You're not cutting and pasting from the other job application that you did last week. And which leads me on to my next point. If you are cutting and pasting, make sure it's relevant to the job that you're applying to, and make sure all the font is the same. The amount of applications that I see where the font changes halfway through and it's or bits here and there are different fonts, and it's really obvious that you just basically cut and paste.
And I guess check that you've changed names if you.
Yeah.
So another job.
So if you're applying for the student union, said really like to work at, IBM, clearly don't want to. So, and also research the company before you write the application form. The whole point of an application form is to get you to an interview, and people really don't like reading them. So you've got to try and show that you're interested in the job, you know a little bit about the organisation without reaming,
Yeah, of course.
loads of information.
Yeah, you don't want to copy and paste off the website.
Yes, don't copy and paste. And just show that you're interested. Don't write War and Peace, but don't write half a page. So when I talk about covering each point under the person spec or the job description, whatever they ask you to do, I'd say a paragraph about that big. So you're aiming for an application form that is slightly, maybe sort of 4 sides of A4 maximum.
Yeah.
They then might ask you at the end, have you got anything else that you would like to add? And utilise that space to say a bit more about you as a person and your interests and things like that. Because people think that it doesn't work, but it actually does. It can make you quite interested in people.
And I guess might get some points that you might have missed on other areas of the application.
Another thing you can do on the application, which might be relevant going forward, is in that bit where it says, have you got anything you want to say? If you've had a period where you haven't been employed for a significant period of time, so I'm thinking maybe sort of 6 months or more, probably good to have an explanation why. Because I've had people like that, and I've got to the interview and I said, oh, can you just let me know about why that is? And they've given me a perfectly valid reason why. Do you know what I mean?
So you don't miss out on an interview because of such.
Because they think, oh, yeah. So just, you know, just sort of use your application form in a sort of a human way.
Yeah.
Okay, so before you go to the interview, obviously make sure, a bit like the application form, that you've researched the website, that you research their information online, and that you know a bit about the organisation. Obviously, if you're attending an interview face-to-face, make sure you've got there in good time and you're not running and you're not sweating and you know how you're getting there. You can, you know, they quite often say, if you're interested in this place, please feel free to give this person a ring.
Yeah.
I would say only ever ring that person if you've got a sort of specific, meaningful question to answer them. Ask them rather than sort of ring and go, hi, I just wanted to chat about the job, because they'll be really busy people. So you sort of want to have a specific reason. You may well have an interview online now as organisations move to online interviews to save the environment, etc. So obviously my tip to you is, I've done interviews online with interviewing other people, and you can still get the sense of their personality and things like that. So really try not to worry. You can still come across, just make sure the technology works before.
And tidy your room.
Tidy your room. Don't have your washing in the background that's a bit grimo, because that's not going to do you any favours. But yeah, nice clean room, and try and put on a background or something. Right, again, the interview will take you through, they'll probably take you more through your softer skills. So how you might deal with scenarios, when you might have innovated, when you might have done something or led a team, what role you play in a team. So think about the job that you're going for and how you might answer those sorts of questions. You're going to be asked those sorts of questions more likely than, can you type 30 words a minute? Do you know what I mean? You're not going to be asked questions like that, because they can get that from other, like your application form. What I always say to people is, go ready to an interview with 5 or 6 things that you've done that you're quite pleased with, or that are quite important to you, that cover different aspects of your life that you can adapt to a question that you might get.
Yeah.
So if I don't know, if I was you, for example, you'd be a school rep. You've been vice president education. You've also been part of Walk Snow, going down mountains. Yeah. So what I would probably do is pick a Walk Snow one, a school rep one, and then the rest from your vice president education, so that you just got a mixed bag of things that you can bring up and adapt to questions. So you could adapt that to questions like, when have you, give us an example of when you've acted on your own initiative and you can think of something.
Yeah.
Okay. Obviously, it's always quite good to Google some standard interview questions before you go. Relax, because sometimes, you know, the more you want something, it can really make you like tense up.
Yeah.
So try as much as you can do to relax.
And I guess if you don't relax, your personality doesn't come out. That's what I've found an example when I was interviewing quite a bit. Yeah. The one that I did the best in was the one that it was like towards the end of the day, and I was I'm quite calm by that point.
When I got this job, I was convinced I wasn't going to get it, because I'd just gone for 2 jobs fairly recently before that and completely messed up the interviews.
Yeah.
And so I just came for this job thinking I'm not going to get it, and I was quite chilled, and I think that's why I did okay. Plus I obviously
amazing as well.
No, I didn't. So one of the things that they might also ask you is your strength. So make sure you give examples, again, outcomes. They may ask you what your weakness is. Never ever say something like, I'm a perfectionist, or I'm a natural, you know, I'm a bit bossy, or something like that. When you're talking about weaknesses, you're talking about something practical that is contained within the job description, and you then say, but I'm very willing to learn, and I'm also quite good at X, Y, and Z. So my go-to one was, I'm a bit weak on Excel. But I'm very willing to learn. So they can't then drill down into that. So if I said, you know, I'm a perfectionist and I sort of can't relax until things are perfect, then they could ask you supplementary questions to go, well, how do you deal with this and how do you deal with that? If you give a factual thing about an actual aspect of the job, you know, then the training can sort that out.
So I guess I come back to what you said before about reading about the companies that have actually part of it, reading the job description beforehand as well.
So if there's ever anything, so when I went for this job, I said to them, look, my background is in student support, that area. My background is not commercial.
Yeah.
So naturally I'm going to be weaker in that area, but I'm very willing to learn, and what I have done is X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
So you kind of turn a negative into a positive. If you have to do a presentation, obviously try and make sure that that presentation is relatively engaging, not too much text.
Yeah.
People quite often do handouts and stuff. To be honest, if you're a panel and you've got 7 people, 8 people being interviewed that day, you don't tend to do it. So focus more on the actual presentation than the stuff that you're giving out to people. If you can't answer a question and you have your mind goes blank, don't just say, I don't know, just say, is it possible for us to come back to that at the end? And as an interviewer, you'd go, yeah, absolutely, that's fine.
Yeah.
Don't make things up, because they might give you supplementary questions and it's really obvious. You can tell when someone is making, and that whole, I did this, I did that, I did it, make sure you did it and it wasn't a group of you.
Yeah.
Don't claim to have done lots of things that you haven't done, because you could get into a pickle. And if you quite often now with these interviews, you'll have to do group scenarios. They might get you to do group scenarios and things like that. Decide, bearing in mind the role that you're going for, what role you want to take in that group. The person who is going to be ultimately employed is not necessarily the person who jumps in and takes over. So think about how to present yourself. Make sure that you engage other people in that group and say, what do you think, and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But don't automatically feel that you have to be the person who's leading it in order to get the job, because that's quite often not what people are looking for. And generally, just really try and be yourself. Have a bit of humour. If you go wrong, just say, oops, that was a bit of a mistake, and then sort of put it right.
Yeah.
If you really can't think of an answer, then at the end, you'll have some questions that you want to ask them at the end, so go prepared to take some questions.
Yeah.
And then say, if there's been a time in the interview where you haven't been able to answer a question, so I'm really sorry I couldn't answer that question. Is there anything else that you would like me to answer before I go and have another go, basically?
Yeah.
That may be a slightly different question.
No, amazing. My one bit of advice as well, I think, is, and somebody told me this a while back, be nice to the people in the room when you get there. So like if there's an executive assistant or somebody at the reception desk, be nice to them, because there's a lot of times where the reception person or whoever's welcomed you will walk to the person interviewing you and give them sort of a wink to say yes or no, or how they feel about you is so important.
And the panel will quite often go back to that person who welcomed you, or that person who gave you the tour of the building, to say, what do you think?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Okay, so I've written a few things down. I think one of the really important things is to come in and show a real willingness. Graduates now sometimes get a bit of a bad press in the press, don't they? That we're all a bit entitled and we turn up and we don't want to do things. And it's genuinely not the case. What you need to do is just that sort of, I'll do that for you. If you're in a meeting, it's like, can somebody possibly just take the notes for the meeting? I'll do that. And show a bit of team spirit, and show that you're not a sort of job's worth, and that's not my role.
Yeah.
You want to try and show quite quickly that you bring something slightly different or something a bit new to the team, so that they think, oh, we haven't had that before. So don't be afraid to offer your opinion, but obviously do it in an appropriate, rather than a sort of bolshy or a sort of cocky way, but just say, oh, I wondered if this might help, and I've got an idea, that sort of thing. So someone who is willing to share ideas and make suggestions at an early stage is someone that you sort of go, oh, thank goodness for that, someone who doesn't need spoon feeding, and but most importantly, will not go off and sort of do things without checking if they're unsure. So most organisations won't bother they won't mind remotely if you've made a mistake. But if you sort of go off road and think, I can do this, I'm a graduate, I can do this, I've got a degree, I know what I'm doing, and it ends up, costing you money, they won't be very happy. So show initiative, but do it within the confines of your role and your place within the organisation. And always ask if you're not sure, because people never mind.
Yeah, it's taking initiative, but not suffering in silence at the same time, isn't there?
Yes, yes. Make an effort to sort of, like you say, speak to different people in the organisation and, get to know them, and just make sure that you're very, very keen, you're obviously keen to learn new things. So that whilst your position might be X, that boss in their head is thinking this person could be progressing to take on Y and then maybe one day Z. And you've got, and also a lot of people don't, there's not really such a thing as a job for life anymore. So each job is a stepping stone, and you want to make sure that they're going to give you a really good reference for the next one, and they,
you're getting the most out of it that you can. So if you can learn some new skills along the way, then great. Yeah.
They won't expect you to know everything, but what they will expect is that you've got the willingness to learn new things and maybe to sort of rid of old habits, bad habits that you might have had in certain ways. So if you're used to writing an email in a certain way and they don't like that, and they want you to write an email in that way, that you just do it.
Yeah.
I know that graduating can be a really difficult experience, okay? And it's particularly harder if you've got lots of mates around you going, oh, I've got such and such graduate job, and I've got that, and I'm going to be on 30k, and I'm going to be on 40k, and I'm going to be on this. Unfortunately, we do value our worth sometimes way too much in salary. But what I will say is that regardless of your age when you leave university, do not expect to get your dream job straight away. And try not to, it's so hard to, but try not to compare your path to anybody else's. Because yes, they may have that wonderful graduate job now, but it's like the tortoise and the hare, isn't it?
Yeah.
I had friends who didn't go to university and were earning quite a lot of money in the private sector, and yet when the ones from university came out and will start at the bottom, we were sort of going like that, whereas my friends who didn't go to university and had quite well-paid jobs when we were young sort of went like that.
Right, okay.
So it's supposed to come good in the end, but also it's about being happy. It's about doing what makes you happy. More money does make life easier sometimes, but it doesn't make you happy, and you generally just have more outgoings. Okay, so salary is the first thing. Don't obsess over salary. As long as you can live and you've got a bit of a disposable income, you'll be okay. The second thing is, don't obsess about having that sort of dream job. Be prepared to do anything and keep yourself employed, because that will be way more impressive than you being picky and choosy and having one job for a year and then having a year off because you weren't able to find the right job. Okay, so just keep yourself employed and do anything, because what employers want to see is that you're willing to get stuck in, you're willing to sort of just do that thing that you have to do to get on the job ladder and develop yourself, and you will develop skills. I mean, my first job out of university, because I wasn't very active in looking for one, was in a job centre, and I earned the equivalent of about £6,000 a year, which was pathetic, but I met some really, really cool people, and it kind of taught me other things as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Use the resources that are available to you. So we've got stuff on our website about how to fill in an application form and stuff. I know the careers department are willing to help, and you can book an appointment with them even after you've graduated.
Yeah, and their website is full of stuff.
Yeah.
So for all stages.
Yeah, and actually this university is really good at wanting to help its graduates. I've not quite seen that in other places I've worked.
Yeah.
And they really want graduates to do well. Use your spare time well as well. So if there's anything that you can do in your spare time, whether, I don't know, that could be learning a new language or doing a bit of volunteering or something like that. If you haven't quite managed to do that whilst you're at university, do that. A busy person is a happier person, I find. And if you want something doing, you ask a busy person because they generally get it done quicker.
Yeah.
So keep yourselves busy. You will get knockbacks, unless you're amazing and very, very fortunate. Or someone gives you a job, but try not to let it get you too down. See it as part of the bigger picture. See it as something that wasn't meant for you. I mean, don't use it as an excuse, to not try, but there's something that you really wanted and you didn't get. It wasn't right for you at that point in time, and there was a reason for that. And then you just need to kind of pick yourself up, dust yourself off and try again.
And try and learn from it as well.
Yeah, and I know it's really frustrating because you don't hear back from people, you don't get any feedback. But if you can get any feedback from any employer, if you, for example, you've been for an interview or your application form was rejected, if you can, try and get some feedback. But I do appreciate that there's many out there who won't give it.
Yeah.
We always make a point of giving it in the SU, but I know that loads of people don't. So yeah, don't kind of hold out for what is unachievable at the moment. Keep yourself employed. Keep yourself busy in your spare time, and try not to compare yourselves too much to what everybody else is doing around you, because everyone is completely individual.
Yeah, do what's right for you. That's the most important thing, I think, isn't it? Well, thanks so much for your time today, Sophie.
That's okay, Harry. Don't ask me to give you a job because I won't.
How rude. You would if you could. If anyone has any questions they'd like to ask, please feel free to put them in the comments. And if any employers or people in recruitment or anyone wants to get involved and put comments about sort of what you're looking for in graduates, what would impress you, please feel free to comment or get in touch with us directly. We'd really appreciate it, and I'm sure our graduates will too. So I'm going to let you go now, Sophie, because I know you're busy. But again, thanks very much.
You make me busy.